a light bulb, a hammer, a photograph of Sarah, that was fantastic, clay, an owl. The children just named and pulled those things out of the bag, a lot of things that make this congregation go. So what are some other things that you feel like our pledges might pay for? Music. Yeah. Coffee. The new hanging system for the art. Staff. Utilities. Lawn mowing. IT. Outreach. That's a lot of things, isn't it? And I bet for those of you who are introverts, you will say, I should have said this right when you're in the parking lot. And that's okay, because there are a lot more things. And then the chalice, the symbol of everything that we gather around. That flame doesn't light itself, does it? It never does. And it doesn't stay lit without tending. And that is what stewardship is about. It's about tending the flame together. And that is as it should be, because UUI was not planted by one visionary person with a grand plan. It was started by a group of people, a community. No one could have done it alone. No one could have sparked that flame and tended it all by themselves. In 1979, 93 adults left All Souls Unitarian Church. They wanted something warmer, something more family-centered. They signed a charter together, 93 people who believed that what they needed, they would have to build themselves. That is how UUI began. They met wherever they could find space. They rented a room for a while at Central Avenue Methodist Church. They kept looking, kept dreaming, and searching for a place that could hold what they were becoming. One of the members prowled the city looking for a permanent future home, and he found this one. 4 acres, several buildings, lots of work to do. The original members showed up every weekend cleaning and fixing and getting it ready. Imagine those early weekends here, people bustling about, folding chairs, buckets of paint everywhere, people hauling trash out of the rooms. That used to be a basketball court. That was the gymnasium for the school. I imagine that kids were running around everywhere while their parents worked. I imagine, too, that someone always brought coffee and probably donuts. And it maybe didn't feel historic at the time. At the time, it probably felt close to overwhelming, the amount of work to be done. But this is how congregations are built, literally sometimes and metaphorically, by ordinary people showing up again and again because they believe something worth building is happening. They weren't merely volunteering. They were building their congregation. They were being good stewards of something they believed in, something they were creating for a future that they could feel, they could intuit it, but they could not see. How many of you were here back then? Could you raise your hands? Oh, it's a rare Sunday. It is a very rare, Anna, you were here. Excellent. Wonderful. Were you one of the kids that was running around?
I was born in 1977.
Okay, fantastic. Well, we are so grateful to all that the founders did. They lit a fire here, a fire of commitment, of hope, of shared responsibility, and every generation since then has had to decide whether to let that fire dim or to tend it. And tending that fire together, that is stewardship. So what does it mean to tend that fire today? In a faith community, stewardship is often defined as how we use the gifts that we've been given to live into our mission and our vision. If theological language works for you, those gifts may be gifts from God. If it doesn't work for you, then we might simply say our resources, the physical, human, and financial resources that we have. Stewardship is much larger than the annual fund drive, the annual pledge drive. It includes how people contribute their time, their talent, and their treasure in order to do the things that we collectively are called to do. In this way, stewardship is an aspect of shared ministry. It is a way for lay and professional leaders to care for the congregation together. But ministers and other staff will come and go. It is only the congregation itself that remains. And there are so many ways to be a good steward of UUI. It might look like participating in religious education, or on the board, or in worship, or in the music program, or on the membership committee, the Faith and Action Ministry. It could be a chalice circle group, or even by making food for someone in the congregation who needs a nourishing meal. And these are just a few ways this congregation is built, continues to be built week after week. I remember when my then husband would take our small children to a park, and he would get oohs and ahs and people telling him how great it was that he was babysitting his kids. And he would respond that, no, he wasn't babysitting, he was parenting. Similarly, when people who are friends and members of this congregation, when you share your time and talents, an argument could be made that you aren't really volunteering. Instead, you are co-creating this congregation. And I see the spirit of co-creation here all the time. I see it in the people who arrive early on Sunday mornings to make sure the building is ready before anyone else walks in. Oh my gosh, there were so many people setting up for the luncheon today. I see it in the teachers who sit with our children and answer their impossible questions about life, the universe, and everything. And what would happen if I took this hammer and smashed this light bulb right here? I see it in the quiet moments too. The calls you make to one another when somebody's not feeling well. The times when you notice someone sitting alone and choose to sit beside them. These things may feel small, but they are not. They are how congregations live. They are how you thrive. They are how you co-create this community. And they are good stewardship. And because it's pledge drive time, good stewardship also means sharing your treasure, financially supporting the congregation. For most faith communities, this one included the vast majority of the money needed to pay for staff, keep the lights on, and fund important programs comes from you. There are no grants or federal funds. We don't charge membership dues. We don't get any money from the Unitarian Universalist Association. In fact, if we are in good covenant, we will be contributing to the Unitarian Universalist Association. Over 80% of the budget comes from the congregation, comes from all y'all. This year, as you heard Stacy say, the fundraising goal is $420,000 in pledges. Now, I know that right now, many of you are giving more than ever. The world is asking a lot of us right now. You may be giving to mutual aid funds, to organizations fighting for our civil rights and civil liberties, to causes that feel urgent and necessary because they are urgent and necessary. I want to be clear, I am not asking you to choose. I know that we all have limited amount of resources, time and energy and money, and that it's difficult right now. What I am asking you to consider is where UUI belongs in that picture, because UUI is a part of that social change ecosystem. When you invest here, you're investing in people who show up at rallies, who staff mutual aid networks, who hold each other when the news is too heavy to carry alone. The small C community is inseparable from the large C community beyond these walls. We strengthen each other. And the world needs this Unitarian Universalist congregation right now, needs our values of justice and equity, transformation, pluralism, interdependence, and generosity. The world needs a community that puts love at the center. This congregation is not a retreat from the struggle. It's a place where we come to be restored for it, to be reminded of why we fight, and to fight together to build the beloved community that we know in our hearts is what we want. One of the ways churches have historically talked about appropriate financial stewardship is through the concept of a tithe. In Christian congregations, a tithe is 10% of your income. In UU congregations, we ask for 5% from the most committed of you because we understand that you will be giving to other organizations as well. And nobody's going to check the percentage for you. We're all on the honor system here. Now, if that invitation sounds large, I invite you to consider that studies show that it is low-income working families who are the most generous group in America, giving away about 4.5% of their income on average, compared to about 2.5% among the middle class and 3% among higher income families. Now, I want to do a little math with you, but I don't want your eyes to glaze over. When this ministerial search committee surveyed this congregation, they found that the average household income here is around $118,000 per year. That's the average household income. Some of you are going to be more, some of you are going to be less. So if you don't hear yourself in these averages, it's okay. But the average is around $118,000 per year. We have roughly 190 pledge units. And our pledge goal, as we've heard, is $420,000. So what this works out to as an average pledge is about $2,200 per year per household. These are averages. Some of you will give more, some of you will give less, but the average would be $2,200 per year per household. That works out to less than $200 a month. That works out to less than $45 a week, which is about the price for dinner and a movie. And that $420,000 is less than 2% of this congregation's average household income. Less than 2%. So in other words, if every household simply gave about 2% of what they earn, we would fully fund the life of this congregation. Some of you can give more, some of you can give less. That is exactly how it should be. This is not about shaming or checking up on anyone. Boy, sometimes UUs really hate to talk about money, especially this straightforwardly, so thank you for sticking with me on this. Stewardship is not meant to be uniform. But I'm going to ask a question. What if we inch that 2% up just a tiny little bit? What if we averaged out at a giving rate of 2.5%, the rate that middle-class Americans generally already give? You would not just meet your goal, you would blow it out of the water. You could do things that you have only dreamed about. Think for a moment about the new minister that you are bringing in. Imagine them walking into a congregation where the programs are fully funded, the staff are fairly compensated, the community is fired up with commitment. Imagine what that minister could do, what you could do together when that foundation is so solid and is built on such generosity. That is what you are building right now with every pledge that you make. You aren't just going to be funding a budget. You're going to be building the launch pad for the next phase of the life of this congregation. Stewardship requires caretaking and conserving for the past, yes, but also for the present and for the future, especially for the future. I know our faith saves lives. I see it happen year after year in our congregations. And like you, I want this congregation to keep saving lives long into the future for people who haven't found UUI yet, for children who are here now and those who are not yet born, for someone who will walk through these doors someday desperate for exactly the community that this congregation offers. You are the caretakers of this institution for a future that you may or may not ever see, just as those 93 founders were caretakers for us today. In a moment, you will hear from our stewardship team about the practical details of our pledge campaign, how to pledge, how to increase your giving, how to make it easy and sustainable. Because you are all the keepers of the fire that was lit low those many years ago, and stewardship is how you keep it burning. The pledge drive is now officially open, and pledges will be gratefully received. May they be joyfully given. May it be so. May we together make it so. And now I invite Holly Hendrickson to come and briefly share about this year's pledge drive.
Hey. All right. I couldn't have said it better. But the details of this we're just going to give you a brief overview because you'll be learning more very soon. At 11 o'clock this morning, everybody that we had an email for, so members, friends, and returning visitors, should have gotten an email letter that lays out our goals for the pledge drive and some practicality. There's some links to important documents. So check your email and read the letter and then get started. So everyone should fill out a pledge form. It doesn't matter if you just want to roll over your pledge from last year. We still need to know what you plan to commit to in order to figure out what our budget will be. Pledge forms look like this. They'll be online. There's a QR code at our table out there and paper forms. Even if you can't pledge, if you could, or you can only pledge $5 a week, what any amount is okay. And if you can't pledge anything at all, but you still care and you still love this place, just say, I can't do it right now, and we will quit bugging you, Otherwise, you're going to keep getting, please pledge, please pledge. Okay. There's also a new thing this year that might be helpful for people that are like, how much should I give? I don't really know what's a good amount. This is always a little tricky, and this is something we have developed. It's called a giving guide, and that will also be attached to your letter, and we have some copies out there. Gives you some idea based on your family's financial situation. Just to give you an idea, many of us did not grow up in churches or in families that were churched, that gave regularly to a church community, and have no idea what is kind of what we should do. So here's an idea to let you know about that. We accept stocks, we accept electronic payments, and the way to do that is in Breeze. If you want to roll over your payment or find out what your payment was from last year, you can go to your Breeze account, which is online. You can, again, ask us more about that at the table. And of course, we take checks. Just make sure any money you designate check-wise or cash you give to us, we'll take it, but just designate paying my pledge. If it goes in the basket, it's shared between the social service organization and the general fund, and it's not, unless your name's on it, we can't attribute it to your pledge. Myself, Stacy Robinson, who gave our wonderful Words for All Ages, and Jennifer Gatz are your stewardship leaders this year. We'll be at a table in the social hall each Sunday between now and April 12th, the close of the pledge drive, and we'll be there to answer your questions. Please pledge right away, because then we don't have to do reminders as often, and we can hopefully get to our goal. Many people are interested in what UUI's budget and finances are like. We'd love to have you join us next Sunday afternoon. Our treasurer and some of the finance team will be here to talk about UUI's finances and our budget. That will be next Sunday, the 15th, after service. And that's a good time to find out more about the tentative budget. The budget will be voted on at the the June congregational meeting. At that time, it will no longer be open for a lot of discussion. It will be pretty much fixed. So if you have questions, be watching for opportunities to come and learn about the budget and have some input. So we're kicking off this year's pledge drive. We sent out an email to some of the leaders of the church. And as of early in the week, again, we have to rely on our staff they don't work every day, so we don't have most up-to-date numbers, but we had 7 pledges and we had $27,000. So that's pretty good to get started. And please join us in supporting UUI, where, thanks to you, we've got the fire of commitment and the warmth of community. So thank you.